Hello. Hello everyone. How are you guys doing? Oh no, we can definitely, this is my first panel of the day, so we can definitely do better than that. How are you all doing? Thank you very much. I like that very much. My name is Clark Wolf. I'm so happy to be here with you all to introduce these wonderful ladies and to talk about a favorite show and a favorite movie that I'm sure most people in this room have. So let's get right to it. Let's introduce the ladies of Firefly. First, put your hands together for Jewel State and Summer Glau. Not bad.
Wow. Summer, the old girls still got it.
Oh, ladies, thank you both so much for being here, and I was super excited. They actually asked me. I got to pick some of my panels that I got to moderate, and this was definitely at the top of my list. So,
Thanks.
thrilled to be here. Let's go ahead and just jump right in. Well, first of all, okay. So I'm assuming that we have some brown coats in the crowd. That's what I thought. Is anybody cosplaying? And stand up. If show us your survey. Yes.
Awesome.
Amazing. You all look fabulous. I actually saw Kaylee as I was walking over here.
I've seen a few Kayleys. It makes me so happy. It's so
cool.
I get like a lump in my throat about it.
Well, so speaking of that, I wanted to kind of start with that. You know, obviously as fans, we know, what you all mean to this crowd here and what this show means to this crowd here. But I'm curious what it means to you all to see people out there dressed as these iconic characters so many years later.
I mean, just that word iconic is really nice of you to say.
Well, I mean it. I think they would agree too, right?
I mean, we were just talking about this back there. I said to Summer, I'm like, how many of these Q&As do you think we've done over the last 15 plus years? Like probably over 100. And it's insane to me that you guys are still showing up. No, really, because I know you probably heard all these stories that we're about to tell you, but you still come, and it means the world to us, so it's awesome. Thank you.
Guys, it's so special. Thank you, guys.
So let's talk a little bit about. Let's maybe tell a story that maybe some of you have heard before, some of you haven't. I was doing a little reading about. I want to take you way back to the audition process, if that's okay. Way back. So I was doing some reading on an anniversary of the show's premiere, and I read that actually when a lot of the cast went in and auditioned, there weren't really scripts. It was sort of outlines, like rough outlines, and maybe a couple of lines here or there, but the vision was so clear with Joss, like when he sat down with the cast, you guys knew that he knew what was going on, even if there weren't necessarily scripts. I was curious if you both could talk about if that's true and what you remember from the initial audition process.
It's funny that you mentioned that because I was just talking about it. When I moved recently, I found my audition pages.
Oh, wow.
If I book the role, I keep the pages. If I don't, I throw them away. Yeah. So I saw the pages and I thought, oh wow, it was almost like being back in the room. That flood of nausea. No, I mean excitement. And I remember we didn't get a script, which now, I mean, I would be so uncomfortable going in and just reading without knowing, but there's something about the way that Joss writes that you feel immediately like you know that character, and I just didn't really need more than that. And I've actually auditioned for, I auditioned for another job that he didn't end up directing it, but he had written the audition pages, and it was the same sort of thing. Like when I it was one of those where you had to go in, you had to like sign. There was a lawyer there, you know, making sure you didn't talk about the project, and so I didn't even get to look at the pages before I auditioned. And I looked at the pages, and I just felt like ready to go. And I went in there and just did it. And that's just, I think Joss is, it's just Joss.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's very lyrical in his writing, right?
Mhm.
So it's got a really nice rhythm to it almost right away. And that's why, you know, whenever we get the question of like, what did you guys improvise on set? It's like nothing, honey. Like Joss, you know, wrote all of that brilliance, and we just got lucky enough to play those parts. But yeah, there was no script. My audition scene, the first audition I had was just one scene, and it was the one with Book from the very first episode where we meet Book, and I say, "You're going to come with us." It makes me cry just thinking about it. It does. It's ridiculous. I'm very hormonal today. I don't know what's going on.
It happens to the best of us.
Yeah. But yeah, it was that one. And then for my callback, I did that scene again. And I also did the scene where Kaylee has just been operated on and she's really out of it and woozy. And Mal comes to talk to her. And I say something about, "Oh, you're a nice man," or something like that. He
That's
says,
not
"I'm a
an
mean old
easy
man."
audition either.
No, yeah, it was.
No.
Yeah, it was hard, and
Yeah.
I still got the part. But yeah,
It's 'cause
I don't know.
you-
Auditioning for anything is super nerve wracking, right? Like it's, and the room that we tested in was smaller than this, but it was tiered seating, so it was all these executives from Fox, just
Suits,
staring,
faceless suits,
wondering
No,
if they
nice.
want to put
Yeah.
their
Their
investment in you.
Uh-huh.
So always a strange thing. But Joss was sitting in the front, in the very front, eyes locked on me,
Beaming. Yeah.
smiling, encouraging, you know? So I just kept my focus on him and tried to not look at anybody else. But yeah.
So I recently did a rewatch of the show and the movie, and one thing that stood out to me, sort of, first of all, I think it goes without saying that the show was in a lot of ways very ahead of its time, right? You don't build a fan base that is still showing up like this in full force, however many years after new episodes are being created, if you're not doing something right. Okay, so that's the first thing. But one thing that really stood out to me was the maybe gray area morality that we see of the characters. Now, that's not a judgment, by the way, but it was like, for instance, they shoot people. You know what I mean? And
Some people deserved
I mean-
it. I mean, I don't know.
but I do think that, like seeing, I guess because I am a Buffy fan and yes, and a Whedonite for many years, rewatching this was like, oh my gosh, this is a little grittier. This is a little, and so I'm curious for you both being a part of that, a cast or a crew, that are a little bit more, in the gray in terms of like, well, we're outlaws and we're rugged and this is what we're doing and we're on the run and you gotta get down and dirty. It's kind of like, obviously Han Solo was a huge influence on, and Star Wars was a huge influence on this, and I mean, Han did shoot first. So like, you know what I'm saying? But can you ladies talk a little bit about that element of the show?
Well, I mean, they all kind of did what they had to do, right? And I think the beauty of the show is the fact that these characters are so multifaceted. No one is good all the time. No one is bad all the time. They all have these different elements that make them well-rounded characters that you've fallen in love with, right?
That you feel are real, or that you see
you
a part
feel
of
are real.
yourself in.
And they make mistakes, and they second guess themselves, and I think in the long run, most of them, maybe not Jane so much, but do the right
Somebody
thing
had to do
in
it.
the end, right? Like Mal reluctantly does the right thing all the time, right? Where he's like, oh God, now I've got to return that medicine. But I think that the world had to be that way for them to appear as human as possible, and for you to believe them to be well fleshed out characters, right?
Yeah, people often ask too about what it's like to play an empowered female character, and one thing that I like to point out about Joss's writing is that the way he writes women is empowered and it's elevated and it's interesting, but he's not just writing a hero woman. He's writing a woman who could be a real woman who can cry or can, you know, mess up, like River, for instance, needed to be saved, but then she could rise to the occasion and step up to the plate when she needed to, and it's so fulfilling and fun as an actor to get to tackle a role like that.
Yeah, for
Thanks,
sure.
guys.
Well, I'd like to follow up on that if I can, because as I was doing my rewatch, I kind of realized like River changes a lot from pilot episode to the end of Serenity. I mean, that is a journey, and when you first got that role, I mean, I would imagine that as a person, as yourself, maybe you were in a different place when you started than perhaps when you finished, the Serenity. So I'm curious if you could talk about inhabiting a character that actually gets to grow and change and experience that kind of arc.
Well, a question I get asked a lot is how did you prepare to play River? And I want to tell people, well, I studied for 6 months to decide how I wanted to play it. But again, I just looked at those 2 pages and I felt like there was just a part of me that I knew who she was, and she was me. And I had never really worked before. I did one episode of Angel, and I didn't really know how to be an actor. I was still, dancing full time when I got cast in that role. That was when I said, goodbye to my dancing friends and went on set and learned how to be an actor. And the the vulnerability and the how can I say the the nervous energy and the excitement and the everything felt new to me, and I think that really worked for that character in the beginning, and I just kind of let it all out, and it was very therapeutic for me, and my cast gave me a really safe place to try things, and I was always trying things. The role was pretty unpredictable, and there were some things in it that
That's an understatement. River was pretty unpredictable, guys.
So I just went for it, and it was therapy for me. And then I felt like Joss was always just pushing me a little further out into the deep end to try new things, and I was so grateful for the film. It not only in my acting, but then also adding the physicality to it, which was really humbling. But in the end, after going through the process and being given the chance to do those fights myself, was such a privilege. Yeah, it was just an incredible role. It was a gift.
For both of you ladies, so this is a show. One of the reasons that I am a big Joss Whedon, a fan of the Whedon brand, right, which I think is seen throughout most of his work, is that, for instance, to take Buffy, like Buffy came at a time where it wasn't necessarily cool to write a subversive female, lead that can be funny and a valley girl, but also kick ass and have like real emotions and a real journey. And then with Firefly, I see, women who are, I'm seeing women who are doing maybe traditional male roles, like the mechanic of the ship, and I'm seeing diverse casting, because these actors are phenomenal. But I think that really contributes to why the show has resonated, and because these are to me as a fan, these are no-brainers, right? Like we all want to see ourselves reflected on the screen, but this is a conversation we're having now in terms of like, yeah, we should have more women, out front. We should have more diverse casting. We should be, pushing this to the forefront. And Firefly and Serenity was doing it a long time ago. So for you all, has that part of the legacy sort of stood out to you or made an impact on you as you sort of reflect about what the show has become?
Wow. Right? I don't know. I mean, looking back and thinking about the legacy and thinking, when you say things like it was ahead of its time and all of that, it just kind of makes me sad, to be honest. I'm frustrated because I think if the show had started now, it would really have had such a bigger chance of success. Um, you know, it's too bad, and it's great now that there are all these other platforms that are allowing these really quirky, fun shows to have a home. Um, but for us, I think it's just a bittersweet thing, right? Because we do know, we're well aware,
We
we
knew
always
how
were.
special it was.
Yes, we had something special all along. We knew that, and it was a really sad and frustrating thing to have that come to such an abrupt end. So that's sort of all I think about when I think about how great it would be to see it on television now, how much weight it still holds, and how relevant it is. The concepts of it are so relevant right now. Um, I'll behave myself.
Yeah, don't behave. Come on, we're all friends here.
This is true. This is true. So yeah.
So, I'm curious. This is, and I don't mean this to be a leading question, but as I was writing things and doing a little bit of research, I thought to myself, um, if you all were auditioning for this show now, what what role would you guys want to play? Would you want to stick with the one that I mean, there are no rules. Like, forget about time and place and all of that. But like, would you still want to play your roles, or would you see a role and you're like, now in this day today, I would want to be now, or I would want to be this.
No, I'm sticking with my girl.
For me, that's a really interesting question because, like we were saying earlier, it was. I feel like it was that role at that time of my life, and I wonder, if the show did come back, how would I approach this character that was such an important part of my sort of moving from childhood into womanhood. And I'll be honest, I always kind of wanted to be Wash.
Yes. Yes.
I feel like he had the most fun for sure. He had the most.
Definitely the best wardrobe.
Yeah.
If I have to go
Totally.
to set every day, I want to be wearing
Right?
like Hawaiian shirts
Yes.
and sneakers. So just to let our audience know, we are going to open this up to questions for you all. So I believe there are areas for you guys to line up. Great. Okay. So just be thinking about what you want to ask, and feel free to start lining up as you please. Don't hurt anybody. Um, we've still got time, and I want to make sure that everybody has a chance to ask questions if they want to.
We're here all day. So.
One other thing. So if I could take you guys back to the we've touched on it a little bit, but as I was reading, past interviews and things like that, one word that kept coming up was underdog. And I'm curious, if you guys have any memories or specific examples of being like what it felt like to know that you're like, wow, I'm on this really cool genre blending, awesome, weird show. This might not last. We feel like underdogs, and you're going to set every day and you're working. Like, were you all as aware of that as maybe hindsight sort of led me to believe when I was doing some reading, or not?
I didn't know what was going on.
I don't think any of us knew what was going on. We were told by the people upstairs that no one was watching our show, and our ratings were dismal. I mean, we were on Friday nights at 8, which is like nice working with you time slot.
And airing episodes out of order, I'm sure.
Yeah, and then we were
didn't help.
preempted for baseball games and all kinds of stuff. And they were in love with this show called Fastlane that was like their baby. So they were pumping all this money into Fastlane. And I remember driving home from set one night and passing the red carpet premiere party for Fastlane on Sunset. And I was like, oh no. this does not mean good things for us.
Looks exciting.
Why
Why
do
didn't
they
we get
have
one?
Yeah, why do they have a premiere party? That's interesting. So we really had no idea, but I got a memory for you. Do you remember the first convention we went to? It was me, you, and Nathan. It was in the UK in Blackpool. Remember? They lost my luggage. I had to go to H&M. And we were invited to this thing. It was a Buffy convention, and we all thought like, okay, it's a convention. I've never done one of those. Well, all right, let's go. And we thought we would just be wallpaper at the Buffy convention, which is fine. And we got there, and there were all these people dressed up like us. And that was the first inkling that, oh, someone was watching the show. Right? Yeah, and then it just snowballed from there, and we realized we had this like underground fandom that was growing and fighting like hell for us, and it was immensely gratifying. Because like Fastlane doesn't have conventions, and they right, and they were canceled shortly thereafter. They also canceled Fastlane. Yeah, so
Yeah, that was kind of like almost the beginning of the ride that we've been on. Because Firefly it was like it was we were in it and it was intense, but it was over. But then we got
so
on the
quick.
ride and
Yeah.
it's lasted 15 years, and yeah, it's been a ride, guys.
It's been a ride.
We've been in the fast lane.
We've I love it. Summer always has these whammies at the end, right? Like,
That was lame.
she's always got the
But
whammy.
I got my passport to go to Blackpool. I had never been overseas. That was a big
love it.
deal for me. That was
We've like seen the world
crazy.
together, kind
We
of.
have.
Like we've.
It's so beautiful, guys.
Yeah,
Thank
it's
you.
Crazy.
It's really exciting.
So let's go ahead and open it up. Let's start with a question right over here.
Hello, can you hear me, Chet? My name is Chet. Love you gals so much. It must have been absolutely incredible working for Joss. Just amazing. I'm a big Buffy fan from way back. My question, I'm trying to think of something maybe never been asked, but we'll see. Was there any ever a fear that in one of the episodes, Joss would make you sing?
Oh, what a good question.
Didn't he threaten that once upon a time? Yeah.
There was definitely, I think, a plan to, because he's so musical. He loves to.
Yes.
He loves to bring it in when he can. But yeah, I feel like we talked about that.
I feel like we talked about that. There were lots of plans. I know.
Thank you for your question.
Yeah, thanks. Who's next?
Go ahead, yeah. Oh, over here. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Hello.
Hi.
Yes, let's go.
Hi. I just wanted to thank Jewel for a donation she gave to our auction for R2KT. You
Did
reached
it-
out. We
Did it
got
go well?
The auction is tonight, actually. But
Okay.
I wanted to thank you for the donation, anyways.
My pleasure.
And then, totally awesome. The other thing was, had you ever heard of any regret from the execs about them canceling the show years later?
That's a good question, actually.
No. Have you?
I haven't either, Jewel.
Yeah. Who's next?
Hi, my name is Danny, and thank you so much for giving us Firefly. If it still means so much to so many of us.
Us too.
So, okay, so my question is, and it's funny, Summer, that you said you wanted to be washed because at the end of Serenity, you kind of were.
Good point.
Sorry about it.
So that leads me to my question: had we not had Firefly ripped so abruptly from our lives and souls, and had it been able to go forward, and this is like either one of you can answer this, where would you have liked to see it go? So like we're shepherd bookless, we're washless, but where would you have flown off to? Like what would have been the next thing?
Let's hear about those plans, those
Oh,
secret
man.
plans.
Or like what would you have liked to have seen happen with that? Because you changed roles, basically. You're kind of a co-pilot and you're a badass. and you're Kaylee, which is a badass in her own right. But like, what would you have gone on? Being rascals and stealing where you needed to steal, or would things changed a little bit after all that happened?
Gosh, I don't know. It'd be nice to revisit other villains, that we'd had in the past. That would be fun, right? I just wanted to have a baby. I just thought that Kaylee would be such a good mama, and Sean and I were very much on board with having babies.
That
Yeah.
would have been key.
Yeah.
Well, but one of our favorite ideas was actually the Shepherd book's backstory. That,
so good.
I mean, that still gives me chills. That was probably one of the things that I most wish we could have explored. The way that Joss writes is like there's so much backstory for each character, but you have to get him in the right mood. You have to get him at the right moment to get him to say anything. He's pretty secretive about that, and I would have loved to see that. And I hope that we still would have been like barely eking by, because that was kind of the charm of it, is just taking jobs wherever we could get them, and save each other week to week, and be dysfunctional family. That's what I would have hoped for.
Thank you.
About over here.
How did you feel about Alan Tudyk's representation of your characters in Con Man?
What representation of our characters? You know anything about this? No. Sounds like I have some watching to do.
Interesting.
Very interesting. This is where we find out about all kinds of stuff, right? Q&As.
Hi. One of my favorite things is the theme that, when Mal was broken in the Battle of Serenity, that he sort of subliminally, lost part of himself, and that he had surrounded himself, built a crew that sort of externally represented the parts of himself that were missing. And how did you see your characters, and does that sort of feel like it fills a void in him? Loyalty or compassion. I mean, Kaylee always seemed like the soul to me, so how do you see yourself as filling that position?
Wow.
I was the pain in the butt he never wanted. I don't really see myself as like.
He wanted you in the end. He
He
advocated
did rescue me a few times
for you. Maybe not so much Simon. He
I
wasn't
think
wild about your brother.
Well, Simon was loyalty. I guess so.
Yes.
And we were talking a little earlier about those gray areas, and to me, Kaylee always felt like a moral compass.
Yeah.
She felt like that center of this group.
Yeah, well, she was love, right? And was very honest about her love and wore her heart on her sleeve. So I think maybe she represented hope for him. I'd say, yeah, hope.
Feels good. Thanks.
How about over here on this side?
First of all, ladies, it's fantastic that you're here in Denver with us.
Who are you dressed as?
I wonder.
Just
I did
kidding.
River yesterday, so I had to do this one today. And the moderator actually took my original question, which was, who else would you consider playing? But I've just kind of a funny little, have you thought about how does Kaylee get in and out of her crew quarters in her pink puffy dress?
I think you've stumped. Have we stumped you?
Yeah, I mean, that's a plot hole right there. Right? I'll tell you, that dress doesn't fit in a bathroom stall. I know from experience.
Did you want to keep the dress?
Absolutely not.
No. The dress was not.
No, the dress was rather destroyed at the end of it all. Like, it was just mangy at the end there. And like I said, it was just really difficult to sit and pee, and yeah, it was a diva dress.
But you looked
Right.
so good in it.
Thanks. I loved it for 15 minutes. I loved the heck out of it. And then I was like, oh, this is going to be a problem. Yeah.
All right, how about over here?
Thank you so much for being here. And I apologize to everyone, and especially Jewel, because I didn't know that you were having such a hormonal day when I came up with this question. But could you share with us your favorite memory of Ron? Sorry.
Summer just said, of what?
Ron Glass.
To be fair, it is hard to hear up here, especially with this going on in the other room. So get a pass.
Oh God. Well, in that vein, one of my favorite memories was doing a panel with Ron. Ron was hilarious in panels because he was a man of few words, right? We would like be doing this group panel or whatever. And Nathan, sort of runs the show, I guess, and was like feeling the questions and doing a great job. And he goes off on these tangents and is like, that reminds me of that, that moment in that episode where da 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 da. And we go, oh yeah, and we like talk about it, whatever, and move on to the next question. He'd go, that reminds me of another anecdote from this other episode. So he's like talking, in detail about the show because Nathan has watched the show many times and, knows a lot about it. Okay, he does. And Ron sort of sitting there like looking like this. Ron has a very sarcastic sense of humor. Okay, very. And he said, he sort of throws a question at Ron. He's like, "Don't you think, Ron? Remember that part in that episode?" And Ron goes, "I have no idea what the hell you people are talking about." One of the only things he said in the panel, and we just died laughing. We're like crying laughing. So funny. I also remember on our very last day, the last scene we shot, and they called rap, and we all looked at each other like, "Wow, this is it." Ron was the first one to burst into really ugly sobs. My money was not on Ron to break apart like that, but yeah.
Full of surprises. Summer, did you have anything?
Well, one of my favorite memories was when we were in the infirmary. It was really late at night, and we were getting punchy. And it's getting to that point where you get the tired giggles, and people start messing up their lines, and then it's like, we got to get home. And you and Morena were trying
behaving, I'm sure.
Yeah, y'all were being really funny, and and Morena was like, I can't even walk anymore. This dress is so heavy. I can't step over the threshold. And Ron goes, well, pick that bitch up. We gotta go home. And sometimes I just tell myself, pick that bitch up, Summer. So thank you, Ron. Love you.
I love it. He would give Marina such a hard time all the time. She come into the set with this beautiful gown on, right? She'd like waltz into the set, and he would always have a one-liner for her. I remember, like, she walked in looking lovely, and he looks at her and he goes, "What is this, a carnival?" Amazing. So funny.
That's a great question. Thank you for that question. How about over here?
Hi guys, my name is Jeff. Welcome to Denver.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And the question I had for you guys, this is for both of you. What were the most favorite episodes that each of you enjoyed filming during the course of the series? Yeah.
Enjoyed because filming and watching, two different things.
Even filming and watching, actually. Either would be.
I loved Objects in Space because I got to be there every day, and Joss directed it, and it was kind of like it was surreal for me because it was like a dream inside of the dream. I felt like it was a dream come true that I was an actor and that I was on set and I was with Joss and getting to do this, and then the episode was just so beautiful and dreamlike and fun. Yeah, that was my
favorite. That is a beautiful episode.
Yeah.
To film, I would say The Message, even though it was our last one. Yeah, I don't know, because sort of like the Band-Aid was ripped off and we knew our fate instead of worrying about it every day, and then we just treated it like, I remember Nathan saying, well guys, we've got a few more days left, so let's just make the most of it. Let's have fun. And we did. We just had a lot of fun that week. A lot of margaritas as well.
I didn't.
No.
Oh, I didn't. I missed out on a lot of fun.
Yeah. No, I remember. Well, yeah, it was tequila flowing. But yeah, it was bittersweet. But I remember having a lot of fun on that one.
How about over here?
So I think a lot of us in this room share the bittersweetness that you all have about the legacy that's left by Firefly, because you wish you just had more of that, but it has touched so many different genres since then. So I was sort of curious, either in terms of yourselves as just fans, or in terms of shows that you've been able to go be a part of since then. What shows have you enjoyed being a part of as fan or cast that have a little bit of that same Firefly magic, or inheritors of that?
No, I mean that magic is that's hard to replicate. First of all, that was a special one. But I know that a lot of opportunities have come our way because of Firefly. I know the reason I got Stargate was because of Firefly, because the writers and producers liked Firefly. So, because of Firefly, I got to live out 4 more years on an amazing show and be introduced to that fandom as well. So, yeah, I don't know. It's cool to see little tidbits of Firefly pop up in other shows, though. Like, there was like something on Big Bang about it. Yeah.
If I may interject, when I was doing my rewatch last week, a lot of stuff with River is showing up in Stranger Things with 11.
Yeah, a little bit.
Like there's the room, like the blank room. There's a lot of the same and listen, we all as creators and fans, we all borrow. We're all fans of so many different things, but that was something that I had not put to connected. And then I was doing this rewatch and I was like, oh well, hello. I've seen this is out there right now. This is very much influenced Stranger Things, absolutely. Which I thought was cool.
One of the best things I saw was the other day. One of my friends was showing me that some of the cast of Arrow was singing the theme song from Firefly on YouTube. And it was one of the most moving things I've ever seen. It was really beautiful, and they are good singers. Yeah, y'all gotta check that out. Yeah.
They do those musical episodes too. All right, so we have time for one question. This last question, but it's got to be fast, okay? Because they're gonna kick us off the stage.
They're gonna come out with a
Oh,
cane,
sweet
or-
girl, hi there. I wasn't trying to rush you.
It's all right.
Hi.
Hi, my name is River. I was named after you, yes. My question is, how old were you guys when you first filmed your first episode of Firefly?
It's just a few short years ago, Jules.
Yeah, I know. I'm turning 25 tomorrow, so.
Yeah, you ladies weren't that much older than River here, were
Yes.
you?
Yeah.
I was 19. I was the youngest in the cast.
You are.
I was 19.
Still the youngest. I think, that would have made me 20. Yeah.
You were 20, yeah. And then when we did the movie, I guess I was 21, 22.
I remember I turned 22 on the set. We had the cake come out.
Summer. What the heck?
We're still looking good, girl.
Yeah.
You
girl.
ladies
You
look,
got it,
they
girl.
look amazing, right? Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together one more time for Jewel State and Summer Glau.
Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of your Denver Comic Con.